Our next guest, the chief economist at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. I'm pretty sure we're going to be hearing a lot from this gentleman over the next couple of months or so. Vance Ginn joining us again, the chief economist with the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Vance, good evening, and how are you today?
I'm doing well, Chad. It's great to be with you again.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. I know last week was a very busy week for you guys at the Texas Public Policy Foundation with your policy orientation. Tell us what all went down in Austin last week.
Well, first off, I wanted to say congrats on your new time.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you very much.
But we had a great week last week. It's our policy orientation where we bring in a lot of keynote speakers. Some of the state leaders were there and others. And we also talk a lot about property taxes, which is probably on the minds of a lot of your viewers, the size of the Texas budget, criminal justice reform. I mean, really, you name it, it's that type of policy, we're talking about it.
Well, and you know, I think what was interesting about it is it was you had lawmakers, obviously, you know, here in Texas, but, you know, you had Ron DeSantis, who came in, who's right now sort of a rock star among Republicans and how he has handled the coronavirus pandemic in his state.
Yeah, he really rocked the house, if you will. I think he gave a great speech overall, talking about what he's done there in Florida with the COVID-19 situation and opening up and things of that nature. We also have Lieutenant Governor Patrick there on the first day, and on the second day we had Governor Greg Abbott. So it was a lot of big-name folks that were there.
So what is the, I guess for those who obviously were not able to watch and hear what was going on, what were some of the main focuses that these lawmakers were wanting to tackle in a legislative session that's going to be much different than any other session that we've seen in a while?
Yeah, you're definitely right about that, Chad. I mean, this is definitely going to be a different one whenever you think about the COVID-19 restrictions that are in place. But I'm glad to see that at least the Capitol's open. I think our main message is from the Texas Public Policy Foundation was that we need to keep Texas. And how do you do that? Well, we need to look at life, liberty, and really the pursuit of happiness and think about how to create this economic environment where people can prosper. And I think you were seeing that quite a bit from the legislators as well. I mean, look, there's going to be spending restraint this time around, as there's not a lot of extra revenue just floating around. The Texas taxpayers, many of them are without a job, right? And so I think that's got to be looked at. How can we reduce barriers to occupational licenses? There was talk about that. And looking at property tax relief and making sure that the gains last session are continued, if not even improved upon.
Yeah, I think that's key, and I think that, you know, obviously the bill that was passed in the last legislative session, I think it was a good bill. I think it was much needed. It was meant to slow that growth and slow those rates. But, you know, one thing that I keep hearing, and I'm sure you guys do as well, and I'm sure even the lawmakers who passed that bill, they keep hearing is, yeah, but taxes are still going up. What can lawmakers do to start bringing those, or an attempt to bring those taxes down?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Chairman Dustin Burrows is out there in Lubbock area. I mean, he did a great job last session on Senate Bill 2 along with Paul Betancourt, Chairman Betancourt over in the Senate. And you're right. It helped to slow the growth rate of property taxes from 8% down to 3.5%. And then if you go above that, you have to have an automatic election. So that was a great key reform, the first time in, you know, almost 30 plus years. And so that was extraordinary. There was also some property tax relief of 7 cents on the school maintenance and operations portion, your school district property taxes of about $5 billion across the state. But look, it really comes down to what are the cities and counties and other local governments doing to your property taxes, and all of those, you add those together, and your bill could still likely go up. So how do we keep that from happening? I mean, I think, Chad, you and I have talked about, I've been trying to search for ways to eliminate a lot of the property taxes, and you've even seen some bills that would do at least half of that this session.
Visiting with Vance Ginn, the chief economist over the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Was there any mention of eliminating the taxpayer-funded lobbying that I know a lot of Republicans have been working on down in Austin?
Yeah, you betcha. I mean, that was definitely one of the top issues. We have what's called our Liberty Action Agenda at the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and our number one item is to eliminate taxpayer-funded lobbying. I mean, it's just not right that these folks can go up there on our tax dime and advocate for higher taxes that hurts us in the process.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and so many and what's sad about all of this is that many, I would say most taxpayers, they have no idea. They have no idea what's going on. They believe that their city representatives are looking out for them, that their state reps are looking out for them, and their state reps are. But when you have the city putting, who knows how much money, depending on which city you're living in, into lobbying efforts that actually go back to hurt the taxpayer, the taxpayers just, they lose out year after year after year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, it's one of the things that we've been looking at for a while, and we've really got to get control over it because you get a lot of the local governments that end up spending. I mean, spending is the ultimate burden of government, right? It's not taxes. Taxes are just a symptom. And so when you have excessive spending, of course you're going to have higher taxes, higher sales taxes, higher property taxes, and so forth. And so we've really got to get control of spending.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the other priorities and that the Texas Public Policy Foundation is going to be looking at in this upcoming session?
A big one, of course, is going to be our conservative Texas budget to make sure that the growth of government doesn't grow by more than the taxpayers' ability to afford it. And that number we put out is $246.8 billion. It's a 5% growth rate based on population inflation, and that's really a maximum that it should grow by. It really should shrink given how many Texas families are hurting during this situation of so many shutdowns across the state. The other thing is we're really trying to put patients in charge of their health care, where we're looking at direct primary care as an example of that. How do we get patients and doctors to actually have a relationship again about their care that they oftentimes don't have these days? And then you look at energy and the environment. How do we make sure that we can keep oil and gas jobs being oil and gas jobs and not going out to the wayside from overregulation and a lot of other things that are going on? And that's not even to say what the Biden administration would do to them. So we've got a lot on our plate, and we're really excited about keeping Texas this legislative session.
Yeah, absolutely. You do a great work over the Texas Public Policy Foundation, and hopefully we'll get to see y'all during this legislative session, and hopefully we get to have you quite a bit to give us some updates on how things are moving down in Austin during this session. Vance Ginn, Chief Economist with the Texas Public Policy Foundation, thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks, Chad. You're welcome to come down anytime, down to the TPPF.
Absolutely, we'll do it. That's
right.
That's Vance Ginn, Chief Economist with the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And, of course, you can follow them online, and you can follow Vance as well on Twitter, and Vance Ginn on Twitter with the Texas Public Policy Foundation.